This is your host, Amanda Fowler, and you're listening to Just Man's the podcast, the place where I empower you to be who you are, say what you want, and do what you dream. Here you'll find candid conversations surrounding the complexities of life, everything from womanhood, career, and self-growth to friendships, relationships, and opinions that feel a bit taboo. But I'm not just here to offer you tips and tricks to figuring it all out. Fuck that. I'm here to talk about it all. The shit that nobody wants to talk about. To air the laundry without it feeling dirty. Think of this as conversations with cool people and brain dumps that I decided to share with you instead of my journal. Because oversharing is kind of my love language. And if it's yours too, we'll get along just fine. Okay, so you became an empty nester last year?
Yeah, almost exactly a year ago.
I feel like that's a stage of life that I'm always asking moms who are in that now about, because it's interesting to me. Because right now, all I want is like more time to myself. Mm-hmm. So for you, tell me about what it was like thinking about being an empty nester versus like what it's actually like. A little Instagram versus reality.
Yeah, no, I couldn't wait. I remember when Brooklyn was, my daughter was like your kid's age, and I was like, I just can't wait till she can tie her own shoes. Mm-hmm. Like, I just could use her to be able to tie her own shoes. And then I always looked forward to being an empty nester. I thought like being a teen mom, I'm a mom in my 20s, and then my late 30s, I'm going to be able to like be in my 20s. What I didn't expect is that, and I was never like fully, my identity wasn't wrapped up in being a mom. Like I still had my own identity. So I didn't think that empty nesting was going to bother me as much as it does for some people. I know people get like really depressed and like they're like, who am I if my kids aren't there?
Yeah, it's like an identity thing.
Yeah. So I didn't have that, so I thought I'd be fine. I was so excited to move into this apartment and start that time in my life. What I didn't realize is any self-care I've done from 18 to 37 was for Brooklyn. So going from being in my parents' home to then being a single mom, everything I did was for Brooklyn. So even taking care of myself, making myself a better mom for her. So when I moved in here, the two things that were shocking was like dating and also taking care of myself.
That's interesting because you probably had rules around dating surrounding her.
Yes. Yeah. But what I realized was I was dating for her. So I was finding people that even looked like her to like be in her life and to help take care of her.
Whoa.
And like my first questions would be like, are they going to be good for Brooklyn? Like before, like, do I like them?
Yeah.
Are they good for Brooklyn? They won't leave. They won't hurt her. I came from a house of abuse. So like, they're not abusive. They're good to Brooklyn. And like that was my requirements. They love us. And when she left and I started dating people I liked, I kind of lost my mind. And you know how they say when people are addicted to drugs that they stop maturing? I think
like they say that about pop stars too.
Yeah,
like when Britney Spears got famous, like she stopped maturing at that age.
Yes, yeah. Yep. I think that happens if you have a kid too young as well, in a lot of ways.
Wait, that's literally. I was looking in the mirror yesterday, Candice, and I was like, I am 4 years away from 30. I feel like I'm still 20.
Right.
Maybe it's because I got pregnant at 22 and like had a baby at 22.
I think it keeps you young. Like I love that part of this.
Yeah.
I think I have a young spirit. I think I look young. Like I have fun, and she keeps me young. She keeps me hip on like whatever's going on.
She keeps me hip.
She keeps me up on
the Gen Z shenanigans. Is
like
she Gen Z?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even the way I like speak or things I say are very like young. Mm-hmm. But what happened then when she left and it was just me, I kind of reverted back to like 18-year-old behavior. Like in my dating, it was like really toxic, and I like kind of didn't know how to take care of myself. I had questions like, do I stay sober? Do I love myself, just myself enough to stay sober? Do I, I used to meal prep for a family, go to the grocery store, have meal ideas, cook them, like all that. Like I'll catch myself going to the grocery store now and I come back with like frozen chicken nuggets and bananas and be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all my self-care went out of the window. I was just kind of wilding. to be honest. And that's kind of what started my whole 90-day thing, is because I was like, I have to get some kind of routine and like figure out how to take care of just myself.
It feels also too like a lack of purpose. And I think that's why, you know, a lot of moms, like you said, maybe are stay-at-home moms or their entire identity is motherhood. Then they get to empty nesters and they're like, okay, well, my identity is gone.
Yep.
But even if it's not your entire identity, it's a lack of purpose.
Yep.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like a why. Yeah. A reason to get out of bed every day and to do the things you have to do because you have to take care of this other human. And definitely like a self-worth issue came up because it's like, do I care enough about myself to take care of just me?
Yeah. Well, and here's the other question too. I feel like I've been having conversations with Lucas lately where I was like, I don't know why, but I'm feeling so irritable lately. And I think it is because I want to be working like you. I never just wanted to be a mom. Like I've always had big dreams outside of the home. And I'm like, I don't want to just be a mom. I'm feeling irritated because that's all I feel like right now between my job. And I don't know why I'm feeling that way. But he's like, Amanda, you have like, I haven't seen you do your holistic tools in forever. Like I haven't seen you journal. I haven't seen you meditate. I haven't seen you like take care of yourself in so long. And it was almost like an identity, like kind of like slap in the face to me. Cause I was like, of course I do those things. What are you talking about?
Right.
And then I was like, wait, I didn't know I wasn't doing those things, but the choice, right? Like the choice to acknowledge that things are shifting and self-care, or the choice to like scroll on your phone and like distract yourself. Do you feel like you were doing that for a bit?
Yeah.
And then maybe the 90 days were like, okay, no, I'm actually gonna.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was definitely distracting myself, and with people too, right? Like I had this huge hole that Brooklyn used to fill, and I was just like trying to fill it with anything besides substances. And so being distracted in like relationships or hobbies or work or whatever. And then when I did the 90 days, it was crazy. I was actually really inspired by you too. Like I had this like I had this mental breakdown. I wanted to like leave
Your
that
mental
day.
breakdown was inspired by me?
No, my solution was inspired by you. I wanted to go back to Washington. I called my therapist. I'm like, I'm going to get in the car and go back to Washington right now. And she's like, no, I think you need to stay there and figure out how to take care of yourself there. And I called my best friend and we created like this plan of like self-care, a schedule, whatever. I was like, how am I going to stay accountable? And I was like, oh, I'm going to vlog it. And your vlogs, I was like, oh, I'll do it like Amanda's vlogs. And that kind of inspired me to do it. And the response was great. And I got so many messages about like how people were inspired, but it was so simple that the solutions were so simple. The gratitude list, the walking my dogs for an hour a day, meditating, life still was like hitting me hard, but like those things kept me sane and like start to build that self-care and that worth. And people could tell on the outside again too. Like people would be like, you seem different, you seem more present, you seem, I mean, it's wild like how basic self-care does.
Why do you think we like neglect it though? Like why do you think it falls by the wayside? Being somebody like you and me who like, you're trained in Reiki, I was a holistic health coach, like I would be skipping meals. Like we know better, but why do you think we like let it slip?
I mean, the fact that eating was on my list every day.
Just eat.
Like just eat and take your supplements. I think I moved in here. I was so excited. And I thought everything like
your life was going to start again.
Yes. Like
restart.
And I'm like, I love a move. I love moving. I love a new place. I'm like, new house, new me.
Yep.
Even though I know where you go, there you are. Yep. And like, especially here, I've never lived alone my entire life until moving into here, ever. So that was huge too. Just going to bed by myself, waking up by myself, like fully being alone. But I think you just stay busy with other things. And I think we don't want to sit with ourselves and like really see what's actually coming up for us. So I think it's avoidant, because if you were meditating and journaling, you'd have to like look at things.
Do you think a lot of it too could be like, okay, there is a lot of shit that we need to acknowledge and we're not, but do you think some of it too could just be like our brain is literally used to like taking care of somebody else or being in a certain habit, and then when we don't have it, we're like oh, okay, we're looking for something to fill the gaps.
Yep. I think that definitely the taking care of other people thing. And even though we know so clearly that if we're not filling our own cup, we have nothing to give. And I think caretaking and codependency, like I never really resonated with codependency. I'm more like avoidant, attached, and whatever. But the need to be caring for somebody was so big, and having to make that be myself. Like I think it also feels selfish. I think as a mom, like we are told in society, we have to put our kids first. We have to put everything first, and so there's a part of it that it's like if I'm just focused on me, then I'm selfish. Like I was waking up when I first moved in here, and I'd be answering friends' calls. I'm the friend, like a lot of friends will call and complain or talk about what's going on with them. So even like having my phone off to vlog, like people, that was disruptive in some of my friendships. They're like, you're not available.
Whoa.
And having to be like, I'm not ignoring you, or, you know, and just even taking that time like to myself before I even engage with other people every day.
Yeah. Wait, that's an interesting place too.
I have so many clients that are moms that I'll be like, okay, let's put you on this 90-day thing. Like, can you take 20 minutes in the morning? And they're like, I can't.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I've literally, Lucas and I, we were just talking like off of air, and I was saying that Lucas and I just got into this like big blowout fight. And a lot of it boiled down to, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not giving myself time. And the way that we're waking up in the morning is our 3-year-old and our 1-year-old waking up and waking us up and being like, hitting us, mommy, daddy, get up. Mommy, daddy, get up. And that's how we're starting our day.
Right.
And we're like, 5 more minutes. Like, we don't want to get up yet. And then they're like going to play. And then they're like, I'm hungry. And then they need. So we're starting our day by like giving to others.
Yep.
When like we've also probably not gotten great sleep.
Right.
And we're like depleted. So we're pouring from like a empty cup. And I think that Lucas is like, okay, we have to wake up at 6 a.m. every single day. Because even just giving ourselves 30 minutes and say the kids wake up at 6:45, whatever, that changes everything because we're taking time for ourselves. But I also feel like for me, it's been a little bit hard. Like, I think motherhood, you get so used to doing that being is hard. So even when I wake up at like 6, I find that it's hard to not just like get breakfast going or like get myself ready for the day. It's hard to just like sit and be and journal.
I didn't even know the words be present until my daughter was 10. It wasn't until I got sober that someone's like, be present, that I heard it. And then I realized all those years with her that I wasn't. All those years I was just go, just in survival and never present with her. And like sometimes I'll get jealous of people who have those tools. You know, at 37, a lot of my friends are just now having babies. And
really?
And I would think that like part of me is like, oh, couldn't be me at that age, like having a kid. But the things I'm jealous about, or not even jealous, but like reflective on is, wow, they have all these tools. Yeah. And they have resources and they have a fully functioning frontal lobe to make the decision to have kids or not. Yeah. Like, and so even you having kids young, but being able to have those tools and that verbiage with your kids is amazing, because no part of me when Brooklyn was 1 or 3 was like, I'm just going to be present. Yeah. I remember me and my best friend would meet at the park with our kids and we'd be like, go play. We're here for you guys to play together so we can have a moment. Yeah. Right. And that friend's always been better at like being present with her kids than I was. But, you know, it was just so survival all the time that I didn't even have that language.
Well, and that's what's interesting to me too, because I catch myself doing that sometimes where I'm like, I will be at the park and be like, go find a friend to play with so I can like do something on my phone. And don't get me wrong, like I definitely feel like I am more present and I really try hard to be, but I think like I'm always wondering, okay, well, what's it going to be like when they're not here? Am I going to be wishing that I was more present? And then also like when I do finally get that time, am I going to know what the fuck to do with myself? Right. Because that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of it too is like, okay, we get into this habit, and even Lucas like going to culinary school 2 times a week, that was a huge like wrench in our dynamic too, which I would never have even thought that would be an issue for me. Right. But like I was used to him being there, at least just being there while I was like putting the kids down and he would do bath time. Like I was used to having that help, and then it was gone. And I'm finding myself now on those nights, like scrolling on my phone. Watching TikToks, which I never don't get me wrong, I'm a human being and I do that, but like I never used to fucking do that. And now it's like become a bad habit.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm distracting myself from.
Well, and you even said like your sleep earlier, you said your sleep schedule, but it's like, okay, well, when the day's done and that is the time you have for yourself, of course you want to numb out or stay up and watch a show or like have that time for yourself. I catch myself even now that there's nobody here but the dogs. When I pull into the house home, I'll still sit in my car to like have that moment or those moments. So when you're, you know, winding down from your night and you're like, okay, am I going to go to bed right now and wake up early to have some time to myself? Or am I going to like numb out right now? Like, that makes sense. And give yourself some grace on that too.
Yeah. Yes. But I think it's interesting. And I feel like you can relate to this is I'm a really aware person.
Right.
Like I'm a deeply aware person. So it's frustrating knowing like, okay, I know I'm doing this. I know I'm distracting. But then being like, well, why the fuck can I not stop then?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Do you feel that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's addictive. I think it's like dopamine hits and to be able to numb.
Yeah. But then it's like, why can't I be enough for myself?
I mean, that's the question.
Yeah.
But I think and then both of our jobs are linked to social media and stuff like that too. So it's like, under the guise of working or getting inspiration. But I know for me, if I'm scrolling for hours, I'm not inspired.
Right. No, not at all. Are you one of those people that you need to like go out and get inspired through other people? Or do you really like get most of your downloads and your intuitive hits when you're alone?
Both. I would say both. But
you say both like me. With an L. Both.
If I'm out sometimes I'll be inspired or alone. It has to be like I need to be taking breaks from social media though to like find my own inspiration.
Yeah, I get that. I resonate with that. I wanted to have this conversation with you though because Candice and I actually worked together. Was it last year? It was just last year. I feel like we've known each other way longer.
It was like
it was January 2023, right?
Yeah.
So we started working together then, and we were doing a lot of work like on my business, but also inevitably on me because anyone who owns their own business or is an entrepreneur or just like a social media influencer, whatever, like you are your business. So I was doing a lot of work on that. And one of the things that came up was the conversation around young motherhood, but also the conversation around privilege and like building your success based on what you have. And I feel like you said something really good to me about privilege that helped me a lot. So I wanted to have the conversation around privilege. And I'm curious, the conversation for me was like, okay, I have privilege like through connections and through opportunities through my dad and people that I know, but I have reservations about using it because I feel like for so long, everyone's like, oh, well, it's just daddy's money. Or like, oh, it's just like you got that because your dad. And it was almost like a dig, you know? And I think that I internalized and then I need to prove myself. Right. I need to prove that I can do it on my own.
Right.
And you didn't have that, but you have an interesting perspective and I want you to kind of just share your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I get obviously working in like the coaching industry and stuff, I attract a lot of clients that have the money to be able to do coaching and stuff like that. And I saw this common thread in people that have, and even when I was like in AA and sponsoring women, where people have like privilege, but they don't use it and they want to make it on their own. I think that's admirable. And I can see I think society really loves like an underdog story. I think that's why a lot of people love my story, because it's like overcoming constantly something, and people really love that kind of story. But it would be interesting because I'd have these clients or these sponsees and I'd be like, why don't you just use it? Like if your mom's offering to help you to get through school or whatever, why not use it? And, because if I would have had the help, I would have used it. And maybe I wouldn't have, right? Because we have different experiences. And then I think sometimes people, when they start to learn about it, they have like guilt, a lot of like guilt for having privilege in all the areas. And it's like, so shutting down and not using it also isn't helping people without privilege. And so using it and then using it to help other groups, other marginalized communities, other people without privilege is the best thing you can do with it, especially with families that it's like, oh, well, maybe there's guilt of like how the family got money or, you know, or their parents' beliefs. It's like, okay, well then educate yourself and then use that to help other people. And not talking about it doesn't mean it's not there. So like, you know, just you having shame, you feeling like, oh, people are going to be like, oh, it's daddy's money. So then you, even if you're not using it, it's still there.
Yeah.
You still can.
Yeah.
Like you can get help tomorrow.
But I feel like it's like judgment from other people that I probably internalized. But now it's like, it's me judging myself for having that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense. But when I see people just like struggling and they have help, I'm like, take the help and then use it. Like use it to use your platform to talk about topics, use actual money to donate to things, use your resources to help other people. Not using it is, and then it's kind of just staying in a generation that doesn't have any of those beliefs. A lot of times, people that come to me like you have different belief systems than their parents. You know, like it's like, oh, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and, you know, this kind of mentality, when in all actuality, you could break the generational curses with that. You can be teaching your kids something different. You could be using your time to, you know, go to a soup kitchen, do things and give back. So hiding from it or not using it isn't helpful.
Right. Do you think you ever struggled with asking for help?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so too. For me, I struggle with asking for help, but I feel like I have privilege. You necessarily didn't have the resources or the connections that I have, yet we both still struggle with asking for help. Yeah. And that could be a multitude of things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually an interesting concept. But I do think there is a little bit of ease in a life where, like, you know, if something happened tomorrow and you guys couldn't make your mortgage or something, you have someone you could call.
But do you know where I think that gets dangerous? It kind of keeps you in this place, like you said. And if you're not listening and you're not familiar with Candice, she was on Lucas and I's podcast, What's the Recipe? And it's a great episode. It was like one of our most highly downloaded episodes. And people love Candice. And she explains kind of her whole story there. But you even said, like, the secret to your success was single mom syndrome. Yeah. The fact that you had nobody to fucking rely on. Yeah. You didn't have a plan B. But I think people who have more privilege in the sense of money and like maybe family money or people who will help them out in that way, they might not get as successful as they can because they know that they can just rely on, they know they have a backup plan. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes. And I don't think the people that are working with me are like that. And yes, it was the key to my success, but it also still inhibits a lot of me from having a lot more success. Like sometimes I have to have my back against the wall to get going on a project. Yeah. So I think that's where we can learn from each other a lot, because it's like, how do I still go after my dreams from a regulated state? Yeah. How do I hold on to success? Yeah. I haven't been successful with that yet.
Well, and that's actually why I got the job that I want to get, which is that exactly, you put it in a really good way of like, I want to be able to build my success with the podcast from regulated state. I don't want to have to go into all of these things because like these have to fucking work or else. I think that energy for me, what I'm realizing is that energy doesn't help me. Right. That energy makes me feel like I'm going to show up inauthentically because I just want to try whatever the fuck I can to get it going. Right. You know? Right. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Yes. And so I think it's like finding inspiration when you're inspired. I'm listening to some book right now and it's like,
what's it called?
Transurfing. It's the weirdest book I've ever listened to.
Transform your life in a day.
Transurfing reality. And they say like inspiration can't be like cultivated. It just like comes. And so when it's there, using it and not trying to like find it. Yeah. Again, so I'm constantly trying to create like
artificial inspiration.
Yes, yeah. By like saying. Desperation or by, you know, going back to what I've known. So I'm like, oh, well, I've got it out the mud before I can go do it again. Instead of being like able to be regulated in success in arrested state.
Yeah. I feel like the conversation around privilege and, you know, using it or not using it or having it or not having it, I think it all does stem from like judgment. What do you like, why do you think that people feel that judgment? Do you think it is like kind of like a, oh, well, I don't have it, so you do? Or like, what do you think that judgment is?
I think that I'm not sure. Like when, yes, maybe it's like, I don't have it and you do. But also I think that can come from when people just aren't acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just like putting it out there, acknowledging it, owning it. Like you have your life, you have your experiences. It is what it is. Nobody is asking that you should have suffered. If I'm grateful for the things I went through because it's made me who I am, but I also would have just liked to have a normal childhood. Yeah. Yeah. And I can use it for positive things. But just even acknowledging it, I think is some of the things like when people, especially with social media, if they see you have all this stuff and like, they're like, how, you know, we find out people rent houses for photo shoots and different things like that to make it seem like they have things or whatever. Just like being really honest and authentic. I think that's why your stuff does well, is because you're just pretty honest and authentic with where you're at.
Yeah. I guess that answers the question of like, I don't think there will be judgment in a place of honesty.
Right. I mean, I think there still will be like, but it's also like, I think we're only triggered when somebody says something to us if part of us believes it. So if somebody is saying something to me that's like, I don't know, you were a bad mom because you were on drugs. And if I'm triggered by it, it's like, because part of me still believes that. Right. Or, oh, it's just daddy's money. Like, you think that about you, so that's why you're activated by it, not because what they're saying holds any weight, but it holds weight in you because you believe it. Yeah.
Do you think there is a place for like, okay, you have to be, what's the balance? I guess I'm curious about like survival mode versus like not regulated versus dysregulated, using it for motivation. Like what's it? Because I do think it's helpful, right, to feel like this has to work because because it has to work. Yeah. I do think that's helpful. But at the same time, at what cost and what's the balance?
I don't know. I haven't found it yet. Yeah. But I think part of it's like, for me, it's like a maturity aspect too. Like just getting more mature is going to help me to be able to stay regulated, realizing not being, because I think it's addictive, the highs and lows, the ups and downs can be really addictive. I like extreme emotion. Yeah. I like extreme passion. That's like same with like toxic relationships. There's a part of me that likes it because I never know what's going to happen because that's what I'm used to in childhood. Like I don't know what's going to happen when I come home each day. So it's comfortable. So it's more uncomfortable for me sometimes when things are just like calm and peaceful, and it's like having to regulate in that. Like I have this extreme fear that the other shoe's gonna drop. My best friend used to call me out on that all the time. We'd be out like dancing and having fun, and she'd be like, oh, where'd you go? Thinking the worst case scenario because you're having fun. And I'm like, yeah, I think that something awful is gonna happen if I'm enjoying the moment.
I feel that same way. I feel like if there's any sliver of like, ooh, things are kind of working out the way that I thought they would, like, all right, who's gonna like stop, like turn all this off? Yep. Where the fuck does that come from?
I don't know.
Trauma?
Yeah. I would say and that's happened, right? Like I got sober and then I'm like, oh my God, life's so good. I'm sober. And then it's like, oh, you have cancer, or, you know, I'm going to become an empty nester. And then Brooklyn gets pregnant. And that, you know, was really triggering for me. It always happens. Life is always going to life. So it's like, especially in that 90 days, like how do I stay regulated and balanced and taking care of myself no matter what else is happening on the outside?
Do you think your gratitude list helped you with that?
Oh, tremendously. Like I believe in like honest gratitude. So you don't just put things because you think you need to put them. Right. Like if you're not grateful for your eyesight that day, maybe you're not putting that on there. But it'll be like, I started doing that in early recovery. It'd be like, oh, I'm grateful that I have $5 left in my account to get a coffee. I'm grateful that no one at this AA meeting knows I have cancer so I can sneak a cigarette. Like, what are you actually grateful for? Because you can't get more gratitude if you're like faking it or feel like you have to put something down. Like you know, maybe my daughter doesn't make the list every single day because I'm not grateful for what's going on. And not that I shouldn't be, but if I start from a place of things I'm actually grateful for, I'll get to a place where I can be more grateful for reality.
What do you think the gratitude does though for you? Just even like the snowball effect. Maybe like it doesn't show up right away, but then maybe in a few days you're like, oh, maybe it's because my gratitude list. Yeah,
it changes, I think, like my whole vibration or my outlook, you know, like nothing changed. I thought like doing the list, I was like, oh, business will take off again real quickly or this or that. And nothing changed on the outside. I just changed. And so my outlook, like going on the walks with the dogs, I did like a music cleanse where I wasn't like really listening to music unless I was in the car, and I was listening to audiobooks. So I'm thinking more positively. I'm on the walks with the dogs thinking about being grateful living downtown, being grateful to live somewhere it's sunny, even if it's cold, or just whatever. And it's like, it's the same day as the day before, just my mindset has shifted.
I talked about that on a podcast recently, on somebody else's podcast that you actually need to go on. I'll send you all the details after. And it was talking about community and human connection and like finding friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think it's anything that I did differently. It's my mindset shifted. I was like, oh no, I need friends and I want friends now, versus like, I'm good, or like, I just like don't want to do it right now, or like, like it's just not something I'm prioritizing. But as soon as I was like, no, it's a priority, it came.
Yep.
And I think we were even talking about too how like I have been disassociating lately, and I don't know why, but I think a big part of it is probably because I haven't even been getting in touch with what the fuck I'm grateful for.
Right.
Like at all.
Right. Or there could be things like we don't want to look at. I think when we disassociate, we're numbing, or we don't want to have to like sit with ourselves and think like what feelings are coming up, or so like disassociating is a way to like stay busy, and we can even like guise it as like positivity, like and like taking the time to like really sit. I get really mad at myself if I like lose my keys or anything, because I know I'm so disassociated by that point. And I'm like, how did I get here again?
You said that to me. I like forgot my fucking SD cards, the thing that I need to do this podcast, so we had to go run to Target before this, and she's like, what are you disassociating from? I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, like what is it you don't want to see or deal with, or like what's going on, you know?
I actually need to ask myself that question, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, actually, do you think that this could be why? So the new job that I got starts July 5th. And I feel like that is going to, like I was talking to Lucas about how we need a routine. We need like a schedule.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't start a routine until that starts, because my schedule is going to change July 5th. I don't want to have to like create a routine and then change it again once my job starts.
I mean, I don't think that's real. I think that's one of the things that we say to ourselves, like new year, new me, or new, like, yeah, it'll change and adapt, but you can go both ways. You can start the job and still just wake up and then be, when your kids wake you up and have to hurry up out the door and still, you know, or you can start putting in some of those practices now to prepare for it. But we like an outside influence. We like that's why I like moving. I'm like, I'm going to get in this new house. I'm going to use the gym every day, and I'm going to, you know, do all this stuff, or a new job, or I like using September as like my New Year's, like back to school.
I love September.
Yeah, like getting on a schedule or whatever. Yeah. But you can start that now, and the job can be a motivator for you to do that, and it could help, and it does. But like, how are you going to hold on to it, and how do you make sure you're doing it even if you're not, you know, with an outside schedule?
I think motherhood is a really big thing for me. And I think I'm realizing this now. Like, I had a stay-at-home mom. I never wanted to be that. And I think when I stopped, what did I stop? I stopped doing the podcast. And I was like, no, I'm not really doing any brand deals. Like, I want to get this new job. And like, that's what I'm doing. And until June, or until July, when my job starts, Lennox doesn't have school right now. He's out of school right now for June. He goes back in July, like 2 days after I start my new job. And I was like, I will just prioritize Lennox and like be full-time mom. I can't fucking do it. I can't fucking do it. I think that's what I'm disassociating from.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to get myself wrong or like be hard on myself, because I do have moments where I'm like present, but also I don't want to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think motherhood brings up a lot too.
Yeah.
I think if you're doing things different than the home you grew up in, and that might be like cause questions, or if you were like, then have to remember what it was like to be young and were your parents present with you and what did that look like? I mean, I disassociated, like I said, all of Brooklyn's like 1 through 10.
Yeah.
Because there was this part of me that was like, damn, it's really easy to show up appropriately in a lot of ways. Like, why wasn't that done for me? Or, you know, like, it's a reminder of what either I missed out on, or guilt from like when I realized what being present was, like, damn, I wasn't present for all that, and like trying to overdo it once I got sober too.
Yeah. I think I'm scared to slow down because I think I'm not gonna start back up.
Right.
I think I'm scared to slow down and be present and maybe take like a pause from doing a lot of content, because I feel like if I stop that's also, I feel like I've been needing a social media break for way too fucking long.
Right.
Like literally just deleting the apps, because I used to do that all the time, where I would like delete the apps for 2 weeks, create, or just like be present and get quiet and like be with myself. Haven't done that. I'm shit scared to do it.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing, because I think if I slow down, I'm not gonna start back up.
Right. And I think and for me, like, I can't, like, that's where my business comes from.
Well, and that's what my thing was too, was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be making money until I start this new job. I have to rely on like brand deals,
right,
or something. So I have to stay relevant.
Right. Yep. And I think what you could do in the meantime, though, is just like set timers on it.
I'm so fucking bad with that.
I know.
I will literally ignore.
Yeah.
Like,
I used to have Brooklyn put in the code, so I couldn't get the code.
Smart.
To like give myself more time.
Smart.
Yeah.
I need to do that.
Or just like be like, I'm not going to get on until this time, or it shuts off at this time.
I think my problem is not, because if I don't pick it up, I won't touch it. It's if I pick it up and go on it, like, okay, so if the boys are down, if I put the boys down, and then I like sit on the couch like for a second because I want to sit before I go and make the lunch and then go to bed or like get ready for bed. I feel like if I pick up my phone and just check TikTok, I'm on it for 2 hours.
Right.
But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't even want to touch it.
Right.
It's like if I pick it up, I get sucked in. And I think now that I'm talking about this too, it's like, okay, well, why don't I just want to go in a bath and relax? And I think I'm addicted to doing.
Yep. I mean, it's so funny because you know how I'm with baths. I have no service in this bath, and it stops me from like being on the phone. But the bath is where I create my content. So I'll literally go in the bath so I can not focus on anything else but like to make the reel or whatever. And it's totally robbed me of my whole, like, I used to have this like whole spa bath routine. And now I like to go to like the Havana spa when I can, and like, because it's a naked spa and you can't have your phone in there.
Wait, I need to go with you.
Yeah, we should.
That sounds amazing.
And because you can't have a phone. So, or like I've been going to movies again recently, and you can't be on your phone in there. So like creating these things where I can't, because I'm such an addict with it. Like
with your phone, yeah. I think it is. You have to create the actual, like, we can't have it. Because I think I'm addicted to the doing, and then when I get quiet, I'm like, what the fuck do I do with myself?
Right.
I also think you probably could relate. Like, I think I'm just a really deep thinker. I can't not think and ask questions, and sometimes I don't want to fucking deep think.
You have to start meditating.
I know. I really do.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get back, because I think this is a perfect way to also talk about your 90 days before we shift into the should I give a fucks. Like, for me, giving myself a plan, I guess, like, walk us through a 90 days, like what that would look like how, for me, I'm having these issues of not wanting to get quiet and I'm addicted to doing. How can I like set up a 90 days challenge? So
what we do is we first like create a brain dump. You're going to dump every single thing that's taking up space in your mind that you either want to do or should be doing, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, work, kids, pets, like everything. You know, if you pass the vet and you're like, oh, I have to get them their shots or whatever it is. And then we create the list out of that, and we come up with daily things that are non-negotiables that you're going to do every day, and then some of the bigger projects too. And then we break them down even more. So like, I need to get a Colorado ID. So I need to set the appointment. So then I put the checklist to like each step to help me. So then I get the little dopamine when I click complete, to get each step done.
Is that what it is? Like when you cross something off the list, it's dopamine?
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Yeah. So I have to like have it all put out. And like knowing when enough is enough. So like, I was going through it so bad in the beginning of my 90 days that if I just meditated, journaled, walked the dogs, ate and drank water, like that had to be enough. And then I had to like let that be enough. And so then we do like daily non-negotiables that you're going to work on. And then like bigger tasks and projects, and then the accountability piece of it. And then, but there's room for like, if it's like, this doesn't fit, or I'm just not finding anything good out of it, then you can take it off the list. But just like 90 days focus, and it can be on anything. So this program is for if you're an empty nester, if you recently became a mom, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're going through divorce, if you just got sober.
Like transitions.
Yeah. And helping you to like stick to the basics during that time as well. So that's kind of how we set it up. So with you, it'd be like a morning routine, or maybe if mornings are impossible, then like nighttime, maybe a few other times when Lucas is home to go do stuff herself. I don't know, we'd have to do your brain dump first and see what your main focuses are. And then it also like just puts the other things, you can put it on like the back burner. So then you're not thinking about it. It's written down. There's something I want to look at, but for the next 90 days, I'm focused on these things. Because when you are overthinking all the time, and then that creates that like, before I started it, I was just like, I owe everyone everything. I'm failing everyone. Yeah. I suck at life. I suck at everything. And then having the list, like checking it off, is showing what I'm actually doing. So then I'd be like, oh, today was actually pretty successful. And also prioritizing what's important and what's not, because it's taking up your brain, whether it's important or not, if you're thinking about it.
What was the feeling after you completed it? Was it hard to stay like accountable with those things?
Yeah. It took a little bit. I had some things come up in my life too, that took me off track. But, because I did the 90 days, those routines were pretty ingrained in me. So like the gratitude list, I was still able to do. Meditating was hit and miss. Long dog walks I was able to do. But when the things happened in my life that happened, I was able to be like, I know how to fix this. I don't need to go outside. I know I can go back to these routines, and they'll help me get through this as well.
Quickly, before we get on to the should I give a fucks, I'm curious, because we were just talking in the car before, what's like the most transformative or impactful like experience you've had using like either a tool like Reiki or like a psychedelic or like whatever?
If I had to say, I don't know. It'd be so hard to say one. I'm someone that has to do all the things to just even function. But I would say, I mean, psychedelics were good because they give you good breakthroughs, but if you're not able to like integrate into your daily life, then you lose that too.
Right.
Then it'll be really fleeting. Breath work, I think, back to scream work, was so transformative, because I don't allow myself to cry or sit in sadness. And so it would give me like a timer of like, okay, I can really feel and process these feelings. And then also the somatic part of it. So somatic work, I would say, because I can think my way through things like, logically, I have to stop talking to this person or whatever, or I have to stop doing this thing. But I can't until I like release it from my body.
What was the first time you did breath work?
I was in Seattle, and I had just had my first psychedelic experience, and in doing that, I was no longer AA sober and lost that like AA community. And a friend suggested that she had done breath work, and she was like, I screamed and cried and had all these things, and it felt like psychedelics, which is using your own breath. So then I tried it, and it was so transformative. I sobbed, I released a lot of fear, and I like knew instantly it was something I wanted to learn how to like teach other people how to do.
Whoa. And I think that's interesting too, because I think that so much is stored in the body that like we don't know, like we can't get out. Can you talk about that really quick? Like how the body, we need to release things from the body? Because I even feel that I can tell when I'm stressed, like I'm doing too much. It's not like my brain, it's my body. Like my body, I can feel the stress in my body. I can feel it in my chest. And I should do breath work to get it out, or like meditate maybe. I just keep going.
But I think even working out,
yeah, that's true.
You're kind of getting that same release. But it's just like, okay, so I did all this therapy, but I was still so scared to even walk my dogs in the daytime because I thought every car that drove by was a threat. I was going to get kidnapped at 35 years old, or like something like that would happen.
Okay, what were you saying? I fucking forgot. The camera literally stopped recording.
Yeah. Oh, somatics.
Somatics.
Yes. So, that's what I was saying. I was like scared to walk my dogs like in the daytime. I had such bad like PTSD. I was always scared running from my car to the house at night, things like that. And breath work was the one thing that I was able to like really release that fear. And now that's not an issue for me at all. So it was stored in my body somewhere, even though I did so much therapy, psychedelics, talk through it, like logically, I'm like, there's nothing to be scared of. Or like, I remembered I used to want to pray for like the normal amount of fear. Like, you should have some awareness, but like not be totally in fight or flight 24/7.
But I think that's also maybe a product of motherhood. I think that so many of us are doing so much that we kind of are in fight or flight. I also think it's a product of like being in a day and age that is so connected. I feel constantly in fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And then maybe like the somatics can help us get out of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like doing it. I don't like sitting down to do breath work. I'm like so resistant. My students laugh at me because I like throw the mat down and I'm like, pouting. And then it's always so helpful.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like I remember when we worked together, you're like, you need to do breath work. And I was like, no.
Yeah. Well, because it's how we talked about earlier, like, what is it you don't want to look at? Yeah. Because in breath work, you're not in control of what comes up.
Yeah.
So then.
And I think it's like frustrating for me because I'm like, I do want to look at these things because I am such a growth oriented person, but it's almost been helpful for me to be like, and it's not an excuse. I think it's actually fact. Like my body is so addicted to the doing. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is more than like, I don't want to look at these things. It's more like my body, it's going to take a lot for my body to get there because it's not used to it.
Well, I think when you're a thinker like that, you think you know everything too. So you're like, oh, I know what's going to come up. I know what's going to
When we did our inventory, when I worked with Candice, we like did an inventory about things that I resent. And then you told me like what it says about me. There was so much God complex stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, cause that's a way of feeling like we have control. So when you enter in a lot of fear, you're like, oh, I already know what's going to happen.
Yes.
And then like the trauma piece. So we're putting our trauma into it. But then again, like what I just recently went through where I did know, and I wasn't trusting my own intuition, then like what was happening there, because I like thought that all my trauma was causing me to like think all these crazy scenarios, and I was completely right. So and for those of you that don't know, I found out the guy I was dating for 9 months had a whole fiance, and
fucking wild.
I always suspected it, but I never had any evidence, and I knew. Like in my gut, I knew, and you know, he used words like maybe it was your past experiences, or I could see why you would think something like that, but that's not what's happening. And I'm like, I never ever again will I not trust my own intuition. Like if it is a gut feeling, then I need to just, and why isn't my gut feeling enough to make a decision?
Well, that's the thing. I think I confuse my gut feelings with like my anxiety.
Yep.
And I think that I need to figure out how to differentiate from that, or maybe just trust what I think might be anxiety a little bit first.
Yep.
And see what happens. Cause I think that I've been feeling that way too about my own like health. Like my hormones are fucked right now. And I feel like if I keep going the way that I'm going, like my health is going to fucking plummet.
Right.
I know that. But then I'm just like, oh, well, it's just my anxiety. Like I'm a hypochondriac.
Right.
But I don't think so.
No. And I always knew with cancer, like when cancer came back, they're like, you can't just know it came back. Like, and they did every other test besides giving me another ultrasound. And then they did the ultrasound. They're like, oh, it does look like it's still there, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I knew, but nobody believed me.
Did you feel something in your body?
I just knew. I was just like at work one day and I was like, I just know. I don't know. And then same thing with the guy. I just knew. And so many times in my life have people not believed me, whether I was talking about like my own abuse or like with the cancer. And even when I would tell people like, I think this man might have a whole like second life, they would be like, there's no way. Like people close to me would be like, that's crazy. He doesn't even seem that smart. Like, I don't know, Candice, maybe just
is he
believe
capable of that?
Yeah. Like just maybe believe, what he's telling you.
Yeah.
And then I was right.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to find that balance between like, okay, what is my trauma, skewing my vision, and what is my actual intuition?
I need to sit with that too. Because I feel like that's what I'm struggling with currently is what is my intuition versus what is my anxiety.
Yeah. And I think I heard somewhere one time someone said, anxiety
is loud.
No, it said it'll give you all the reasons why. Intuition will be like, run, like just take a right instead of a left. And then anxiety will be like
more ruminating.
Take a right because there might be this or da.
True.
So that kind of has rang true for me, but I'm still trying to figure out like when is it anxiety and when is it intuition.
Yeah, I feel like it probably also like happens. It's probably harder to tell in certain situations of life or certain phases. But let's transition into the should I give a fuck.
Yes.
So if anybody is not familiar, this is an IG series that I do on my stories called Should I Give a Fuck, where people tell me the situations and happenings in their life and I tell them whether they should give a fuck or not. And I feel like you'd be a good person to do this with too.
I always want to like chime in on your stories too. I'm like, oh, I would have said.
And that's why I love doing it with my guests, because I feel like I have a pretty like consistent way of giving advice.
Yeah.
But I like to hear how other people would say their advice. So let's get into it. The first one, all of my husband's girlfriends hate me. Should I give a fuck?
I mean, initially I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to be friends with your husband's friends' girlfriends? But if 8 different people hate you, I would want to look at why.
That's what I was gonna say. That all kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
All of his friends.
Yeah.
Girlfriends.
So why?
Yeah. Why? And I think that's what I always say too for people is like, I'm always getting on the should I give a fucks and like asking the person to look at themselves in the situation. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, don't give a fuck if you're confident in the fact that you're acting like sound.
Yeah.
But maybe if there are all of these different people telling you these things, like take a look further.
Yeah. Like, why is it? Do they all hate you for the same reason? Are you constantly, is it always about you? Or are you looking to like pour into these relationships? But definitely if these aren't relationships that you care to cultivate, then I wouldn't care if they like you or not.
Right. And also too, like checking yourself is just so that you make sure that your side of the street is clean.
Yep.
Like at least just if you're trying to figure out whether they hate you, like check yourself.
Yep.
Okay. Should I give a fuck? I'm meeting my boyfriend's best friend who's a girl at a festival where she will be wearing a thong.
No.
Should I give a fuck?
No, not at all. Not at all. This keeps coming up for me with people. No.
Yeah.
Like I have to be confident in myself.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I would wear a thong to a festival too. And
maybe she should just wear a thong too.
Right? I don't know. I look at my platonic relationships and my guy best friends, and that like hurts me for the girl in the thong. Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't want to arouse any jealousy or anything to this other person, and I would want to be able to just be met for me. And I'm more worried about the one into the thong.
Well, and I don't think I would even be caring about this unless I felt like that girl and my boyfriend had a thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like maybe you are feeling this energy that they actually have a thing. Maybe. Otherwise, why would you even care what somebody else is wearing?
Or it's actually none of your business. Because when you first start dating somebody, they have like friendships and they have these relationships. Like my friend Jeff, when I was just going through this hard time, like sat here and made me food and sat with me and watched movies and laid in my bed fully dressed as we went to bed over the blankets. And it's like, if somebody new came into my life and had an issue with that, mm-hmm. then that person's not supposed to be in my life, because mm-hmm. that friendship has carried me. And it doesn't mean that I might not look at different boundaries or stuff. But actually at this point, not really.
Yeah.
Like I need to be with someone confident enough to not care.
Yeah. I love that. My roommate fucking sucks and I shouldn't give a fuck, but it's so hard when she's 10 feet away.
Move.
Yeah, I would too. Like, first of all, I wouldn't get in a situation where I thought my roommate was fucking shitty, but maybe she like showed her true colors after you guys moved in together.
You don't know who people are until you marry them.
True.
Or live with them. So
yeah, I'd probably get out.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I've realized. I found myself before I was like, I need to start waking up at 6 a.m. and like really tend to myself. I found myself being like, oh, like Lucas is sleeping in and his energy is so sleepy, like blaming the energy of the environment, when really I was like, wait, I actually feel like it's coming from me and my energy. But at the same time, like your environment does affect your energy.
Right.
And so I think like a part of maybe if you are noticing that you're feeling more miserable, maybe it is because of this. You're around this girl who sucks.
Yeah. I think you made a good point though. Like, did you exhaust all options if you can't move right now? Like, obviously financials are different things, but like to focus on yourself and why are you focusing on what they're doing and why is it triggering you? And like we said earlier, is it a mirror to something in your life?
Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay. I'm nervous to be known as the girl who only spends too much time with my boyfriend, but he's my bestie. Should I give a fuck?
No, I don't think so at all. Well, I mean, again, caring about other people's opinions. I think sometimes, especially women will get on to each other when they get a new relationship and they go on Boo Island. And
What's Boo Island?
Boo Island, like your friend disappears to Boo Island because they have a new partner.
I've never heard that. Sounds like a reality show.
Yeah, they go to Boo Island. And I think it's normal to do that. And we need to give our friends the space to like do that and figure out their new relationships. And then to me, like, I'm like, they'll always come back around more later. It's just new or fun or whatever. And then also, if you end up building a family with this person, you're going to be with the person all the time.
Right. And I think that's something that Lucas and I actually had to talk about lately, because we were kind of getting into a situation where, like, I mean, we've been together for almost 10 years at this point, but we were getting into a situation where, like, I was doing more things by myself, he was doing more things by himself, and we weren't coming together and actually prioritizing that, like, foundation of what the fuck started our family. And so I think you should be best friends with your partner. That's my belief.
Right.
And if spending time with them right now is what's fostering that and helping you build that relationship, then that's what you need to do. Like, I think you should have friends who get that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So don't give a fuck. Okay. My parents are making me feel awful about not moving home post-college, and they now resent my boyfriend because I'm living with him in another state, but I'm so happy.
Yeah. Don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's the parents' job to acclimate to what the child wants. Like, I obviously didn't want Brooklyn to be pregnant at 18 and make choices she's making, but if she's happy, like, that's not my business anymore, and I can just support her with whatever she's doing and where she's at. I think maybe sometimes that gets diluted or whatever if the parents are like providing financially, then there might be like some more say in that, but it's your life, you only have one life to live, so if that is the path you're on.
But from the parents' perspective, do you think it could be like their own shit is why they're feeling that way? Yeah,
they have their own idea or agenda for their kids, and I think that's like one of the things as parents we have to work through, like
their expectations.
I had an agenda and like the few things I didn't want for Brooklyn, teen pregnancy was like at the top of the list. Yeah. But she made that choice and like is happy with it, and so I have to do the work around myself to get okay with it. It's not a Brooklyn issue, it's a Candice issue.
That is so interesting, because I feel like did you ever feel like you want to prove to her that like you weren't just a teen mom that like couldn't do it?
Yeah, I think my friend Ebony actually mentioned this to me. She's like, Brooklyn saw it as like you did everything. It was the coolest thing.
That's
You're
what I'm saying.
So cool.
So she probably saw that and was like, damn, my mom fucking did that. Like, I admire that. Yeah. So she's maybe standing in admiration while you're standing in shame. Yeah.
It's like, I did everything for you not to have to do this, and you're still doing it. And it's, but that's because I had an idea or an agenda. And it's so funny because I can be so open-minded and woke or whatever to so many different things. And this was the one thing that I was like, I don't want this for her. And, but I mean, he's going to be here in 2 weeks and I'm excited, and it's, you know, her life, and I don't have to, I get to decide my participation in that.
That's crazy. You're going to be a grandma. This is the last one. Okay. Cannot find a job right now. Ugh. Should I give a fuck?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exhaust all options. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're looking in a certain area and it's not working, then switching what you're looking for. Or maybe it's time to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. But I think that like that desperate, or that not like desperation, but the desperation for security is real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people are feeling it right now.
Yeah. I think, you know, is it a specific job or is it any job? I mean, there's so many questions for that. Like,
True.
Can you not find any job? Or are you looking in a certain field? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely be worried.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like if you're right, if it is like a specific job and you just want a job, just go look elsewhere. I think a lot of people my age who are scared of like, I don't want to go work at the coffee shop because that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, but do you need a job?
Yeah.
Like, what do you actually need?
Mm-hmm.
A job in a specific field or just to make money?
I mean, when I wasn't making money in my business, and even currently I was like, you know, do I look for a job or should I get a job elsewhere or try something else? And it was interesting because I had no ego in that at all. None. I thought like, oh, if my business failed or whatever, if I wasn't making money, that maybe I would feel like with my tail between my legs. No, like if I have to do that, then that's what I have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Well, those were all the should I give a fucks. And so if you can't find a job, definitely give a fuck.
Yeah.
Candice, tell people where they can find you, how they can work with you, what's coming up.
My Instagram is Candiwerk, Candiwerk. My ebook for
Candi.
Candi.
Oh, I thought you said Y. Okay.
Werk. And my 90 days back to me ebook is going to be coming out July 15th. And I'm going to be building an online community where people can hold each other accountable and put in their daily task lists and things like that. And then I also do one-on-one coaching for either 90-day programs or business coaching.
Love.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Yes. I love you so much. Thank you for having me.
I love you.